Tonight, Tammy and I are very, very excited for this session. As you know, our main source of income is Max International. And Tammy will add a bit more information how we came about to meet with Claudia and Craig. But just wanted to let you guys know where this whole thing came about. As we're doing these mastermind with Eric, one of the things that he talks about is education when it comes to investments. He mentioned that there's a lot of millionaires, or let me rephrase that. There is a lot of people who have made millions of dollars in the industry of network marketing. But when things changes, because they didn't really do anything with that money, it was not placed, it was not organized in a way that that money can actually work for them. They kind of lost what they worked for and what they built, and they went back to where things were. And it really made Tammy realize that we really need to rethink our strategy where we've always been investing, but and again, I'll let Tammy share how we came about to meet with Craig and Claudia. But that's when we started realizing we should be a bit more selective of who we choose to work with and partner with when it comes to defining our future as we choose to go into retirement. So, Tammy, I'm going to let you kind of follow up from there to kind of give people a bit of an idea of what's going on. And by the way, before I continue here, Craig and Claudia are users of the Max products and they're having wonderful, wonderful results with the product, the CellGVD and the MetaSwitch and so forth. And so they are product users. So I just want to let you guys know that they really, really appreciate and enjoy, the technology that Max International offers. So back to you, Tammy.
Yeah, so one of the things that Chris was sharing a little bit earlier about Eric is I remember the first time we went to his house, Chris, it was a real eye-opener for us to be among the elites. It was an honor. It was a great experience. And he really hit us hard on that subject of what do you actually have? And so on our lunch break, he grouped us all up in small groups. I think we were about 6, Chris. Mm-hmm. And we were sitting in one corner. A couple of them were from the US. Some were from international, but there was one Canadian gentleman there. And we got talking about what each has done to make investments with our residual income. So we got talking about accountants with Rakan, and he says, "Oh my gosh, you gotta know the guy that I'm doing my accounting with." So we ended up, when we got back home, we went and actually had lunch with him. Long story short is we got the phone number of Hashim. And he sat and done a session with us. I think he's done sessions with some of you already. And even my friends, he's done sessions with my personal friends that just didn't, they weren't lined up with their future, with their accounting stuff. So we sat down with Hashim, found out that we weren't leveraging enough. And that's what I love about this. When you're surrounded with professionals, you realize what you're missing in the formula. And that's how all this rolled out. That's when we found out that he brought Craig into one of the sessions. I don't even remember that, Craig, and you were showing us some stuff. And then we got to meet you and Claudia at your investment party, that Christmas party, and it just snowballed from there. So I just kind of want to tell you guys how it all kind of rolled out, because there's always a path to the reason why these people are in our life today. So I'll let you go ahead, Chris. And
yeah, absolutely. And just before I introduced Claudia, Claudia is going to be sharing a little bit of her story and how she came about the whole thing. And then Claudia will introduce Craig. But just to understand how this whole thing came about is I was asking Hashim, I say, Hashim, listen, how can we leverage from the money we have, investments we have, and we're not really leveraging from any of our we have so much assets that we're just not leveraging. And that's how the whole thing. And he says, well, you should consider some of those investments. And I'd like to introduce you to my boss, my partner. In fact, Craig and Claudia, I mean, they own BG Well, but they also the accounting firm, right? So it's the grandfather of it all. So again, I want to give you guys a perspective that you're dealing with people that very much understand how to deal with the governments, how to deal with the taxes, how to benefit from the expensive taxes, as we know, keeps increasing. But the things in Canada, yeah, we're taxed to death. But if you know how to work around, you can really take advantage of a lot of the benefits that Canadian government, and even also you'll find also if you live in the United States, you can also really benefit from the knowledge that you're going to hear about here tonight. So Claudia, I'm going to bring you up here. I'm just going to see if I can. Here you are. Okay. And then Claudia, I know that you have a bit of a story and you want to share a little bit about what's going on. But Tammy and I really appreciate you, and we really appreciate what you bring to the table. And I want to thank you for giving us the opportunity to open the door to be able to invite you guys to our teams, and understand this call's recorded. So not only tonight, but people are going to be able to watch this long after this recording, this session is done. So Claudia, thank you for joining us. So I'm going to turn this call over to you, and then you can go ahead and take it from there.
Awesome. Thank you. Can you hear me, everybody?
Loud and
All
clear.
good? Yeah, my apologies. I wasn't able to get on my computer for some reason. So anyway, thank you so much, Chris and Tammy. It's my pleasure to be here tonight. I just wanted to tell you a little bit about my story. And explain how I evolved into real estate. And it certainly, 20 years ago in my corporate life, I had no idea that I would be doing what I am doing today. I had a young family at home, and I decided to leave the corporate world. I had a very, very nice job, a senior sales job at a major bank, international bank. But I was feeling the push and pull of the family and the clients and all the push and pressure of what can happen. So I decided to leave the corporate world and started a company called Dig It Apparel. Dig It Apparel, within 6 weeks of launching the business, actually went on to Dragon's Den. And Dig It partnered with Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful, prior to him going on Shark Tank into the United States. So we launched the business. This is 2009 and 2010. Kevin O'Leary became business partners with us. And in 2015, by the time we became 2015, we had launched a number of products. We had launched internationally, and we were at the point of going into major retailers in the United States. And the part of the agreement with Kevin O'Leary that is definitely not aired is that Kevin took 10% of the business, but we can have access to a line of credit of $50,000, which to us was a lot of money at the time, $50,000 for inventory purposes within 24 hours, just like that. But we asked him for the money. He said, no, I'm not going to give that to you. So letter of the law said that we could take the ownership back, which we did. And then I sold that ownership to a person that was in my network, which was Craig Dunkerley, who is my business partner today. Craig was simply in my network. I had met Craig speaking at an event, and he was speaking at an event, and I wandered into Craig's room, and I had heard about this guy, Craig Dunkerley, that tells all kinds of ways to save money and taxes. And I thought, what does this guy know that I don't know? Like, I come from the corporate banking world. I have launched my international business. I thought I knew a heck of a lot more than I did. So I sat at the front of his room because I thought, I'm just gonna do that. And I crossed my arms and I thought, what does this guy know that I don't know? And as he started to speak, I went, oh my gosh, I don't know that. Oh no, I don't know that. Oh heavens, I don't know that. So throughout the 45 minutes that he was speaking, I realized that I needed to get into Craig's world, and I became a client of Craig's. That was 2013. In 2015, I bought Kevin O'Leary shares back, and I invited Craig to come into Dig It Apparel and sold those shares to Craig. So in essence, Craig bought Kevin O'Leary shares out. We then took Dig It Apparel to a whole new level. We bought another company in 2020 under Dig It Apparel. But in 2018, we started working together closer between 2016 and 2018. And Craig introduced me to Blackthorn Investment Group. He introduced me to Hashem. Through working with Craig and Hashem, literally has saved my family, a family of 3 kids and my husband, literally saved us over $300,000 in taxes. And I thought, what else does this man know that I need to know? So then we started investing in real estate. So becoming a client of Craig's and entering into the real estate world by trickling into the real estate world has garnered us hundreds of thousands of dollars personally on a personal level, but also introduced the idea of real estate and how passive income can work with real estate. Craig invited me to join him and create VG Wealth Group in 2018. And since then, and Craig will talk about his story, real estate has become a huge, huge part of my life. And to the point where it is now the major focus of what we do and how we spread the word and how we help others with that. So, so anyway, a little bit about me. And I will enjoy hearing about Craig's story and hope that you enjoy it as well. And please feel free to reach out anytime. It's Claudia Harvey on LinkedIn. Please feel free to reach out anytime.
Thank you so much, Claudia. I really appreciate that. So, Craig, did you have a PowerPoint that you wanted to share with us?
Yeah, I was trying to share it, but it didn't seem to be working for me, which is odd. I'm not really sure why, so I will try again.
In the worst case, I do have a copy of it here, and I could share it and move the slide. I do see your slides now.
Okay. All right. So you can see Claudia on my slides?
Yeah. Are you not
Okay.
seeing it?
No, I'm not seeing it, but that's fine. I can move through it as long as you tell me what you're seeing.
Well, why don't we have Chris share it, and then you just ask him to move forward into the next slide. Would that be easier?
It's up to you, Craig. If you want, I can run the show, and then from there I can move the slide as you see fit.
Can you see me now on the slide?
Yes.
Okay, so as long as you can see me, then I'm good with it. I'm not sure why I'm not seeing it on the meeting, but if you can see me, then we're good. So,
Okay.
So thank you, Claudia. You know, it's wonderful the partnership that we created and how that all came together. For everybody on this presentation tonight, I've been invested in real estate since I was 25 years old. I recognized that when I bought my first house, it had a basement apartment in it that I was renting out, and those people paid my mortgage for me. So at 25 years old, I was mortgage free. From there, I bought 2 more duplexes that paid me income. The property that I first bought into as a property owner, as a homeowner, I then rented out the upper floor of, and within 2 years of my life in owning homes, I had 3 properties, which were duplexes, and 1 for my family. So I very early on recognized the value of investing in real estate and how that could build wealth. And then started to take this on further. I was very fortunate as a young guy, as a child actually, that my father was very much into numbers, very much into everything dollar wise, and he shared all of the what should I say, the money movement of the family with me. I knew when they bought their first home on Blackthorn Lane. I knew how much their mortgage was. I knew what their mortgage interest was, 9.8% in 1978, and how much that cost them and how they were working to pay it off and become mortgage free. And, I really got the opportunity to see how real estate can build wealth. Even at a 9.8% interest rate that they were dealing with in the 1980s, that obviously went up even higher than that, there was money to be made in real estate. And I basically took that and said, I need to buy real estate. And we bought real estate. And moving on from there, started to talk to investment partners and started to talk to investors through our accounting firm that saw that the average individual was investing in mutual funds. And mutual funds, the banks were taking the lion's share of the profits. You know, not many people realize that the MER fee that you pay on your mutual fund was taking 40, 60, 70% of your potential profit. And then started to talk with investment partners as to why you should be in real estate. And then, you know, as a follower of Warren Buffett, I'm a huge fan of Warren Buffett. I looked at, you know, where can we buy properties at deep discount in areas that are challenged, you know, they are depressed, but they have reasons that are going to bring them back up into value. And that's why we bought into Detroit. In Detroit, we bought 32 3-bedroom homes for $100,000. So on average, $3,500 per property, and put in on average $12,000 worth of rehab, and sold those properties between $45,000 and $65,000. And then in 2019, we saw the opportunity in Owen Sound. Downtown Owen Sound was very depressed. You know, a lot of underprivileged people living in downtown Owen Sound, but the community was very focused on how do they rebuild their downtown community. The province was putting $2 million into the waterfront. The council had put in the downtown improvements committee that was very focused on rebuilding downtown Owen Sound. And the Bruce Peninsula had just gone into a $13 billion 15-year refitment program for the power plant, the Bruce Power Plant. So everything we saw in downtown Owen Sound was depressed, but there were reasons that were going to bring it all back up. And, you know, as a follower of Warren Buffett, you know, I look at where is an area struggling, but we can get good deals, but there's a reason that it's going to come up back in value. And when we first bought in downtown Owen Sound, one of my favorite buildings I'll look at right here is 9th Street. It's not on the riverfront. We have 3 buildings on the riverfront, but this building is a phenomenal investment. We basically bought this building for $1 million. We put $120,000 worth of rehab into it. It's got 6 units on the lower level that are retail commercial. It's got 10 units on the upper level, which are residential. When we bought this building, the average rent on the lower floor was $7.50 per square foot. We are now getting $18 per square foot on the lower level. The upper level, the average 1-bedroom rent was $700 per month. We are now getting $1,400 per month on the upper floor of this building. If you look at these numbers, this is based on a 28-month return on investment. We increased the value by $725,000. We increased the cash flow by $263,000 for a total ROI of almost $1 million. Annualized, this was a 36% increase in investment for our investors. A phenomenal building. Other buildings we didn't own sound, I'm not going to touch on those too much because I don't want to take too much time on them. This is 948, very similar, 30% per year annualized increase in value. This is 950, backing onto the river, 22%. We still have a number of rents to increase in this building. And 942, this building has 1 major unit on the lower level, 12 units on the upper level that we are currently increasing the rents on the upper level with new tenants to drive a annualized increase in value of 43%. So in essence, our investment portfolio is designed to buy properties in depreciated areas that have an opportunity to grow in value. Owen Sound was a great opportunity. Windsor is the next area that we're looking at. The downtown Windsor area is very much depressed, but you see right now things happening in the area that are going to increase the value of the properties. You've got the new hospital going in just outside Windsor. You've got the new battery plants going in outside of Windsor. So there's money being committed to these areas. And when we really look at this, this is where, as an investor, whether it be BG or BG with you, we can drive returns similar to what we did in Owen Sound. Our thesis is by underperforming non-traditional markets, Owen Sound, Windsor, areas that have depressed situations, but so there's things going on in the area that can drive them up. And we do our due diligence to ensure that what's going on in the area is going to actually drive up market values. And when you really look at it, you're looking at average investments that drive, 6, 7, 8%. But if you want to really build wealth, there's more wealth built in real estate than any other industry in the world. And if you want to build wealth for yourself, for your family, if you want to build generational wealth, it's in real estate. And that's what we do. So, you look at our products. We have the BG Growth Fund, which is forecast to do 18.2% on a growth standpoint and pay out a 5% dividend. We're currently paying the 5% dividend, but that is a 23.22% return. And that's conservative. When you look at the Owen Sound properties that return on average 28.64%, looking at a 23.22% forecast is pretty conservative. And in real estate, to me, that is where money's to be made. So what we do in the growth fund, you purchase units as a limited partner. We source deals and get properties that we recognize in an area can build significant wealth. We acquire them and then we manage them and we pay returns out to you through the limited partnership structure. More recently, properties that we hold in Wasaga Beach are scheduled for development, and these development projects will bring additional income and growth into the portfolio. This particular one, 711 Mosley in Wasaga Beach, it's currently a 2-unit short-term rental property sitting on a piece of land that could be 5 townhomes. And we know the city of Wasaga Beach is very focused on development right now, moving themselves away from the beach community that they're well known of into development. So this property will go into development and produce some significant returns. The other property in Wasaga Beach we have is 1444, 1456 Mosley, which is scheduled for development to be 6 commercial units on the lower level and 12 residential units on the upper level. It's in the commercial district of Mosley Street of Wasaga Beach. Similarly, we have the Coach Hotel in Owen Sound that is scheduled for development as well. So a number of properties that not only are cash flowing very well, but scheduled development will bring significant returns to our investment partners. So what does that all look like? The limited partnership is the growth fund that we bring our investors into. And basically, it's a 3-year commitment, minimum investment of $25,000. quarterly distributions for a dividend of 5%. So the dividend is annually 5% distributed quarterly to the investors, and a forecast growth of 18 to 24%. When you look at our historical numbers of 18% growth in Owen Sound, 30+% growth in Detroit, these numbers are fairly conservative for our investors that join us in this project. The structure, very simple structure, an LLP structure for yourself that gives limited liability to yourself as an investor. Equity growth, we build equity very, very quickly in our properties. As we look at the 9th Street property that I shared with you, we bought it for $1 million. We put 120,000 in. We already have a valuation in the 2.1 to 2.4 million space, a mortgage of 560,000 approximately right now. So we have a million and a half equity in that property that gives a lot of protection and security for our investors. We know real estate. I've invested in real estate for the last 30 years, and we follow Warren Buffett strategies as to how to buy low, identify opportunities where we can buy discount properties in areas that are going up in value. There's something going on. And it's not just about, many people will look at, well, I want to buy in Toronto. Okay, well, you can buy in Toronto and your property chances are is going to go up a lot in value over the next 5, 6, 7, 10 years or whatever, but you're not going to cash flow from it. When we buy into areas that we're going to cash flow immediately, but we're also going to create that growth. And most investors go for cash flow or growth. The way we buy, we do both. And, it's acquisitions, development, mortgage funds from individuals who want to bring their mortgage dollars into our investments and grow their wealth. So when you really look at it, we look at an 18 to 24% target return on investment, with the 5% dividend for individuals who want to take dividends out of the investment and grow their wealth. We have 2 programs available. The first one is our private lend program, and this one is basically for individuals who want cash flow. This is for individuals who say, I want to invest my money, but I'm not looking at growth right now. I'm looking at cash flow. And the private lend program is you as an individual, as an investor, basically saying, I want to invest my money. So say $100,000, whatever the number will be, $100,000 is an easy number to work with. And you get paid interest on a monthly basis based on a 16% interest rate. And so $100,000, 16% annually is $4,000 quarterly to yourself, paid monthly. And this is a great program to create income for you, but it's not really designed for growth. We have many investment partners who have entered into this private lend program recently based on events of the world, of North America lately, with inflation and people needing money. And it's a great program. We have people who have borrowed, opened up line of credits, which I'll discuss as well. You take out a line of credit at 5, 6, 7%, and you pay the line of credit expense out of this investment. You're earning 16. You pay 5, 6, 7%, and you keep the difference for yourself. So this is really a program that talks about how do I become the bank, and I earn money off of what the bank gives to me and keep the difference. So investing through a line of credit is a great opportunity in this program. Our ebook, the next ebook coming out, talks about building wealth in real estate. That's already been released, and you can get a download of this through Chris and Tammy if you would like to get it. And it really talks about building wealth in real estate. Finally, what I like to discuss is our wealth planner. This is a tool we put together in the end of 2023, where we started to show investors where they're invested and how they're making money. So if you look at this, the first column is investing a GIC. You invest $100,000 in a GIC. This is based on the current GIC rates of about 5.2%. Over 25 years, your money would grow to $355,000. If you invested that same 100,000 in the stock market over 25 years, based on the average stock market gain of 8.6%, your money would grow to $786,000. If you invested in our private lend program that we talked about already, that's 16% compounded quarterly, your $100,000 would grow to $5 million. And this is where we use this tool to really show you the conservative investment in a GIC, the investment in the stock market, which, at 8.6%, you're earning a decent return. But this is not inclusive of fees that you would probably pay your bank to be invested in a mutual fund or the stock market. And then investing directly into the private lend program that we offer at 16%. But what I really, really want to show here is the investment in the BG Growth Fund, which is the final column on the right here. And that is investing directly in real estate with us. And when we look at this number, this is on a conservative forecast of 18.22%, how your money would grow to $11 million. And I'm a firm believer, historically, we know that there's more wealth built in real estate than any other industry in the world. So if you look at these numbers and you go from conservatively investing in a GIC to, stepping out there and investing in real estate, which to me, real estate is a very conservative investment. It always goes up. It's bricks and mortar. If something goes wrong, you own a building that you can sell and you can still take your money out. So when I look at real estate, I see it as an extremely conservative investment. And when we look at the numbers, you can see why wealth is built in real estate. And that's why we're on this call tonight. This is why we're talking about this tonight, to show you how you can invest in real estate and build wealth for yourself passively, not being a landlord that gets a call at 2:00 in the morning because one tenant has a problem with another tenant. It's about how you can invest in real estate and make money for yourself, your family, generations to come behind you. I'll flip it back to you, Chris, on that note.
Okay, perfect. I'm just going to come right back here. And one of the things, folks, that I don't know if you're seeing, I know my eyes are like, I saw the vision. And one of the situation here, as we were mentioning, Eric was talking about how his money is working for him. I mean, the guy has made hundreds of millions of dollars through his sales of programs and everything else. but his money is invested into areas that actually brings back, in some cases, passive income and also increases assets. And this is exactly, see, Max International, it's a vehicle where you're earning an income. And some of you are doing way more than 25,000 a year. Some of you are doing way more than that. That's actually quite conservative for many. And the reality is that this money could be compounded in an example. In some cases, some of us made a lot more than that. And Tammy decided to invest a bunch of money in there, and there's a lot more that we want to do. One is to get some passive cash flow. In the same time, we want to increase our assets, to be able to leave a legacy behind us. But in the same time, when I'm 75 years old, I don't want to be stuck where I can't afford coming to Florida anymore because, cost of livings have increased so much. My income is not the same, blah, blah, blah. So this is a really interesting vehicle. And one thing, Craig, I know there might be some questions here. Before I start going through those, I would love for maybe Linda Coffin I was talking to her, I think we were talking last week, and she was telling me how impressed she was with the program. And if you don't mind, I'll keep you here, Craig, and I'll bring Linda up. I'll just spin her here. And Linda, I think your mic is on, everything else. I'd love to hear some of the feedback you were telling me. You being a CPA and a professional accountant, and you certainly understand numbers. And I know you're an investor. You're in Baylor investing, and you're doing very well for yourselves. Do you mind sharing a bit of some of the things we talked about when we were talking about the BG Wealth opportunity investment?
Sure, absolutely. Thanks, Chris. And lovely to see you again, Craig. We just had our opportunity to chat over the last couple of days. I love that one-on-one connection that you have with people's money. We all have different feelings or stories about our investments, especially the notion of legacy wealth. So you're really in a position of trust, and I really appreciate that. So one of the things that I really appreciate about this is that you do all the work for some phenomenal returns. And I wanted to acknowledge Claudia as well. I'm sorry, I haven't met you before, so it's lovely to meet you as well as a partner in this business. So the fact that this is a bit of a social cause, is the way I see it. You're investing in communities, and then you're improving those communities, and then you move on to other communities that need support, investment, reinvigoration, et cetera, et cetera. The one thing that I really like, though, is referring your company to other people. And I probably don't do it justice. However, I'm thinking of an individual that is a really good contact of mine. He's 22 years old. And so I have made a connection between BG Wealth and my friend Brady. At 22, he is a bodybuilder and an RMT and registered massage therapist. And we were talking one day about when I was first introduced to your company. And surprisingly, this 22-year-old kid has 50 grand sitting in a checking account, making 0 interest. So what I really like about your program is that you welcome referrals. I immediately had him connect with your organization. I think the education that you provide, as well as substantial returns, and I'll call it the simplicity of the information that you provide, is something that not only am I benefiting from, but I really appreciate that other people who don't know as much as I do, and don't mistake that I know a lot, please. But it's really hard for people to understand investments and investment vehicles. And so this one is phenomenal, especially when you compare it to mutual funds, because most of us have had mediocre experience in mutual funds. I'll turn it over to you, Chris.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I really appreciate your feedback. And, one thing that I just wanted to point out is I just share a link in the chat segment. If you happen to be on Facebook Live, folks, I'll post it in the comment section once the call is uploaded by Marcel tomorrow. But when you click on that link, it will actually take you to a page where you can download two ebooks. One is has to do with tax benefits, and the other one is the global wealth. I haven't had a chance to read this ebook yet, but I've heard some phenomenal feedback from some of the colleagues of BG Wealth, and I intend to dig into this. And again, knowledge is power, folks. And I know the email that I sent out also has a link to that same page where you can actually download these books. And I believe you can also connect with Craig there directly. So it's, again, just food for thought. I know, Craig, there's a question here. Are you open to Q&As at the moment?
Yeah, absolutely. I would like to touch on Linda's
Oh,
comment.
yeah, please go ahead.
For a second. You know, you mentioned mutual funds there, Linda, and you know, I've been an educator for investors for 20 years, how the mutual fund industry is taking the lion's share of your profits, if you're invested in that space. And I've been educating individuals on index funds for 20 plus years. And some of you might know, some of you might not know that Warren Buffett put out a challenge in 2007 to invest in index funds, and challenged every mutual fund, actively managed fund, to beat his results over the course of 10 years. That challenge ended in 2017, and his results blew away the mutual fund, the hedge fund community. And that was really all about the cost. The fee you pay for a mutual fund erodes 60 to 70% of your potential profit away. And that all comes into compounding. Any of you want to talk with me about compounding, I'll talk with you about compounding, because you're either on the right side of it or you're on the wrong side of it. If you're in mutual funds, you're on the wrong side of it. And this is what Warren talked about in 2007. One of the things that I just read in the Globe and Mail this past week is that index funds in the United States officially surpassed the amount of invested dollars compared to mutual funds, actively managed funds, in December 2023. So we now have more money in the United States invested in low fee index funds than we have in actively managed funds of the bank. This is a major shift for the average individual building wealth, and the bank not taking your money. I've been teaching this since 2004. And it's great to see this actually happen. The bigger side of it is investing in private equity or real estate, which is what we do. And we also saw in 2023 more money going to private equity and real estate than we ever saw in the past. And, you know, that's where we build wealth. The article that I read in the Globe and Mail, where it hurt me, where it pained me, is only 15% of Canadians have actually left their bank investment to go to either index funds or private equity. So in the US, 50%, more than 50% have made the move to build wealth for themselves. In Canada, 15%. We are behind the times as average individuals for building wealth. And this is where I have operated in the last 20 years, educating people, working with people. You need to get your money away from the bank because they're making the lion's share of the money, whether that's a move to index funds, whether it's a move to real estate where you can really build wealth. You need to change your investment scenario. And, you know, that's all I can say about that. I'll refer to Forrest Gump. That's all I can say about that. Canadians are behind the times, and you need to catch up because there's money to be made and there's money to be lost. And if you're giving it to your bank, you're losing.
You know, Craig, I'm really, really glad you bring this up. It's one of the reasons why Tammy created this commit to transform. I mean, if you have noticed, we created this domain. And by the way, this defines from C for Chris, T for Tammy. We can make what commit to transform, which is in line with health, the wealth, and everything else. And this is what we want to do is we're surrounding ourselves with people that understand the power of wealth, that are knowledgeable in the topic. We're not, but we're learning and we're partnering with these people. And this is exactly why Craig and Claudia are invited here this evening. So you could be in front of that information, just like reading the newspaper. You can choose to ignore it, or you can choose to act on it. And at that point, we'll give you, I mean, whatever you need, we can put you in contact. And by the way, there's a series of email that are going to come out. If you go to, for example, the Commit to Transform, you select opportunities, you'll see Max there, but you'll also see real estate there. If you click on that, it'll take you to a page where you could put your name and email, and you're going to start receiving emails with all sort of information, videos, details that are in line with what Craig shared in 20 minutes here. There's a wealth of knowledge. So you don't need to turn around and feel that you're going to, am I going to take a chance? That's all I have. And, to give a sense of comfort. And then you have all this opportunity there to be able to choose based on proper knowledge, proper information. And I know, Craig, there's a few questions here, and I know Claudia have answered some of them. I'm just going to bring it up anyway, because maybe some have noticed it. Not everybody pay attention to the chat. Maripol posted here, can you tell us if you take clients outside of Ontario and invest, or even outside of Canada? We have some people from the United States, even listening in here online, and some are here. How can these guys also get involved if they're not in Ontario or even in Canada?
Yeah, so we have our investment in the fund set up to take funds from Americans. One of the things that we had to look at when we set up our structure was, how do we not negatively impact our Canadian investment partners if foreign investors come in? So we set up a structure because there's tax advantages for Canadians investing in a fund that is only Canadians. The minute you bring in a foreign investor like an American, then you nullify the tax advantages to the Canadians. So we work with our lawyers to say, okay, how do we create a fund that our Canadian investors can come in? They get all the tax advantages of being a Canadian investor in a Canadian fund. And how do we allow Americans to come into that investment without negatively impacting the tax advantages of our Canadian investors? So we basically set up a sideline corporation that US investors can invest in, and that corporation invests for them as a Canadian entity in the fund. So yeah, I apologize. That might be a lot more information than you asked for, Chris, but we have built it out so that Americans can invest without negatively impacting the tax advantages for our Canadian investors.
And I know also you do have some property in the United States side. And again, this is one thing, folks, is that you can connect with Craig directly, right? You don't have to think that tonight is the only night you have to get this information. This is as an introduction for you to get a feel for, okay, what's available to me and how can I get more information? The other question is, what's the minimal investment can I do? Some folks may want to create a big, increase their portfolio, and they may not have an awful lot, maybe a couple thousand, maybe 1,000 or so. I know that Claudia has answered that. Did you want to address that?
So in our private lend program, there's no minimum. I had an investor reach out to me a couple of weeks ago that wanted to start building some investment for her kids. And she asked if she could start with $100 and add $100 every month going forward. So in the private lend program, there's no minimum. In the fund, the minimum is $25,000. I think that's a pretty low level for the average person who is serious about building their investment. And $25,000 would be the minimum in the fund.
Okay. And I know that Mayor Paul, there's a question here to get a bit more information on crowdfunding and real estate. I'm not sure if you want to add a bit more to this, or maybe that's a point where people can just set a time to connect with you to get more information on that. I'll leave it up to you to answer this in a way you feel is appropriate.
Repeat that.
It's just Mayor Paul wanted to have a bit more information on the crowdfunding for the real estate. But maybe that could be a bit more detail that requires kind of a one-on-one at that point.
If I could, Chris,
Yeah, go ahead,
Yeah,
Mayor
go.
Paul.
the third question I had was to learn, or to, if you can tell us, Craig, about the REITs, and the passive income and the crowdfunding for the real estate. Or is it too much for one month?
Sorry, give me a second.
Like the REITs, well, REITs. So I'm not familiar with that.
REIT. So we're not a REIT.
Okay.
REITs are, I think it's about 5 years ago that REITs went through a reassessment that basically, if you earned income out of a REIT, you were basically earning interest like you were earning interest.
But what is a REIT? Is it like a fund of some?
REITs typically, yeah, real estate investment trust.
Oh, okay. Okay, a trust.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah, and they pay you out in a fashion that is very similar to interest. And when you earn income from an investment that is interest-like, you pay tax on that money 100% on the earnings. So if you earn $1,000 from that investment, you're going to pay tax at your nominal tax rate on $1,000. Your nominal tax rate is whatever your tax rate is, whether you're a 30% tax rate, a 40% tax rate, 50% tax rate, whatever it is. How we've designed the fund, it's not a REIT. You earn dividends, which are a much better way to earn income from an investment from a tax standpoint, especially as a Canadian. And your major income from the investment is capital gains. Capital gains is the absolute best way to earn money from an investment because you're only taxed on 50% of the gain.
Yeah.
So, staying away from that REIT format, investing in a limited partnership, which we offer, that is dividends and capital gains, is a much better scenario from a tax standpoint. And, I make these comments not knowing your personal tax situation. If you wanted me to look at your personal tax situation and see how you're affected, I can do that. But knowing the tax implication of a REIT compared to what we do is much better.
Okay.
Thank you,
If
Mayor
that
Paul.
helps.
Thanks.
Okay, perfect. This is wonderful. Let's see here. Jasmine commented here, do you recommend using a line of credit instead of remortgaging our house with a lot of equity to use for investment?
Yeah, so this is a good question. I prefer the line of credit scenario. As a line of credit, you will pay a slightly higher interest rate, but it's not compounded. If you take out a conventional mortgage, it's compounded semi-annually over 25 years, and your interest will actually be a lot higher in the long run, even though the interest rate is lower. What I like to do with investors is say, take out a HELOC, and I can't talk about HELOCs because I'm not mortgage broker licensed, but I will do so. You take out a HELOC, and whatever the interest cost of that HELOC is a simple interest. Basically, you owe $100,000. You pay an interest rate on that $100,000. It's not compounded over multiple years. You take out a HELOC right now at whatever the number is right now, 5, 6, 7%. You invest at 16%, 18%, 23%. The gain is all to you. So I really strongly like the borrowing against your home in a HELOC situation to invest in an investment that pays you more than the interest of the HELOC. But when it really comes down to it, it comes down to how much risk do you want, right? Are you willing to borrow against your home to invest? The return can be great because in one of my slides, I talked about there becoming the bank. If you can borrow from the bank at 5, 6, 7% and earn at 16%, the difference goes in your pocket. So you take the spread. And if you look at your mortgage, if you have a mortgage, that's what the bank's doing. The bank pays you, or you pay the bank 2, 3, 4, or 5%, whatever it is. They lend it out at 15, 16, 17%. They take the spread. So if you can borrow against your home and invest, and the difference goes to you, then you basically are a bank.
In fact, I could state that this is exactly what Tammy and I did. Our property in Florida, excuse me, in Toronto is paid in full. And we literally took, it's a line of credit. The money is still there. And instead of letting it there rot and doing nothing, we took an amount from that and we reinvested it into the projects that Craig was talking about, which is giving us a passive income, which minus what we owe. So the debt's getting paid and the difference stays in the bank. So we're also a little bit on the lending program. So my recommendation here, folks, is don't sit on that. This is the kind of information that creates wealth. So it's important that you don't procrastinate on this. If you have questions, dig into it. Don't just let it slide by. Someone else will benefit from that. I do guarantee you. The fact here is our goal, Tammy and I, is to create an environment to help you thrive. We have an environment to earn money, but once you earn the money, where do you park it so that money works for you? That's equally important. And that was an epiphany that Tammy and I recognized when we met Eric and understand what the rich folks are doing. I'm not sure if there's any other comments here. We're happy to help. Yeah, thank you, Claudia. This is wonderful. Erica, yeah, sure. I know you guys are investors. You guys do very well there. Is there anybody, Tammy, was there anything else that you would like to add that maybe you haven't had a chance to communicate?
Well, what I'm hearing right now is if you're really serious about making a difference for your future, this is a great plan. And it's obviously it's vision, right? You got to see it for yourself. And the big goal was always to, join network marketing, be able to make that leverage residual income. But once you have that, are you just literally blowing it blindfold? Or are you thinking of your future and the future of generations to come, which is, Chris and I have always had that vision. And that's why we've been creating the assets that we have today is we didn't blow the money. We put it into different avenues, but was interesting to know that we could have done so much more. So we're really grateful that we got an opportunity to, first of all, be able to be part of the mindset of Eric, mastermind of Eric Worre, because none of this would have came to fruition with everybody seeing all of this had we not been there. So we're grateful in so many ways in our life. And as I sit here and listen, even though I know what we have and where we're going, I just want to make more money so we can do more. So, you know, I figure we got to meet personally. I'm 60 years old. I know that I'm going to be very, very focused for 5 years. I know that for sure. And, you know, after 5 years, I want to play a whole lot more. I don't know about you guys. In 5 years from now, do you want to play a little bit more? So we have to think of these things. So if we want to play a little bit more in 5 years, well, we got to buckle down today and start looking at what we have. That was a big eye opener to open up what we actually had and realize we weren't leveraged enough. So that's.
Thank you, Tammy. Thank you, Tammy. Now, I know we're in the top of the hour, Bill. You have your hand up, so please go ahead and we'll end on that note.
Okay, thanks, Chris. Hi, Greg and Claudia. Thanks for your presentation here. What are your thoughts about, I know we're talking about pulling money out of line of credit or, you know, remortgage your house. What are your thoughts about pulling money out of the TFSA? When you pull it out, you don't get taxed on it. That's my understanding. Invest in, let's say, 25,000 with you guys and get the money back. Now, I guess you're taxed on the interest that you earn with your company, and throw it back into TFSA. Any tax umbrellas, or you can hide it, but does that make sense? Does that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll touch on this, and before I do want to touch on some of the comments from Tammy and Chris with regards to Eric Worre. You know, I met Eric about 4 years ago, and I love what he brings to the industry of network marketing. I love what he brings to the conversation of building wealth in whatever you're doing. He's a phenomenal individual. And when I met him, it was really eye-opening as to what he is doing for the industry and people who are trying to do things for themselves. So I just wanted to touch on those. To your question, Bill, if your TFSA money is making 4, 5, 6%, it's tax protected, great. But why is it really there if that's all it's making? If it can come out and earn you 23% and you pay tax on that at 30%, well, the ultimate result is better for you in your pocket. So, you know, to me, it's looking at where the money is invested now, what it's making for you, and if it can make more after taxes, then why is it where it is right now?
Thank you, Craig. Really appreciate
Thank you.
it. Claudia, was there any last words that you wanted to share?
Thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure being here today. I do want to share one thing. One of my strong beliefs is that we all meet for a reason, and we all have strengths, and we're all individual people that have experiences that we can draw upon. My experience was different than Craig's experience, different than Tammy and Chris's experience. So all of our strengths together can bring opportunities to the table that we as just people individually can't do. We rely on people behind us. Everyone's got each other's backs. And life seriously changed significantly when I started using the network of people that were around me that were successful. And I don't necessarily mean successful in wealth, but successful in health, successful in just having an all-around good lifestyle. And we are here to help you. We know what we're doing. But if you have any questions at any time, please feel free to ask us. And we are very, very, very happy to be in your network now. We're so grateful to Tammy to introduce us.
The line was a little bit choppy, Claudia, but we definitely got the gist of what you were sharing at the end. So Claudia and Craig, thank you so much. I know you guys are super busy, and I really appreciate making this time for us. And again, thank you for everything you do. And I look forward for many, many, many years of doing business together. And I'm sure that I know that many of the folks here are already using the tax services, and I think that you might have piqued some curiosity out there. So thank you guys. Really appreciate you a lot.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks, Tammy.
Thank you
Look forward to all the conversations that will come out of tonight.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Claudia.
you.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.
Okay, guys, stick around. Max, folks, I know that Tammy and I, well, let me turn this over to Tammy. We were chatting one of our morning session, which, by the way, we do train in the morning. We just haven't, oh, let me stop the recording here because it's a different, stop recording. Here we go.